All right, welcome back. Great.
I want to hear the rest of
We're about to go into module 5, chemical contaminant rules. We're going to follow the same format as we did with the lead and copper. Hopefully at the end of this module, you'll be able to define the chemical contaminant rules. Again, what chemicals we're concerned with, what are some of their limits that are required. We're going to look at the regulatory overview, monitoring requirements, and then we'll talk more in details about the maximum contaminant levels as well as the goals. We'll talk about certain contaminants of concerns. There are some that we're more interested in, such as arsenic, nitrite, nitrates. So fluoride, those will be some we'll go a little more in details with, as well as discuss various chemical treatment options for these contaminants if they are present in large amount exceeding the limits. Again, EPA, by congressional mandate in 1987, they were given the task to look at certain chemicals, and they were looking at about 65 chemicals, look at the adverse health effect of these chemicals and do further studies. They established the maximum contaminant level for each chemical based on this research. And what the MCL was is a legal threshold limit of the amount of substance that is allowed in public water systems under the Safe Drinking Water Act that was promulgated in 1974. The limit is usually expressed as a concentration in milligrams per liter parts per million or micrograms per liter of water. And what they did was they set this goal as close, this level here as close to the health goal as possible. Keep in mind the health goal is that limit where no adverse health side effects were observed. And so what they did was look at that goal and put that limit as close to that goal as possible in order to make sure that we're keeping people safe. So EPA established the following for removal of the 65 chemical contaminants, MCLs, which was the maximum contaminant levels, the maximum contaminant level goals, as well as monitoring requirements and best available technologies to remove those chemical contaminants if present. All of that was a part of this rule. There were three contaminant groups that they were mostly concerned about. Three, hexyl is not one of them. The inorganic chemicals, synthetic organic chemicals, volatile organic chemicals, those were the three. On page 5-4, you have a table listing the regulated chemicals. So if you want to turn to 5-4 and look at some of those, you're probably familiar with them. And again, on this table also, it gives you the various phases for implementing the different groups. And as you can see, VOCs were introduced or implemented prior to the rest, the SOCs and the IOCs. Any of those particular ones you're having any issues with?
Yeah, we have some issues with the trichloroethylene.
Okay.
And also the 1,2-dichloroethane.
And where does it come from? Where is it coming from?
We're not 100% sure. I mean, the 1,2-dichloroethane, we believe, is coming from a site where they were, I'm trying to think what they were manufacturing there, but there was a chemical explosion like 25 years ago, and the ground around it got contaminated, and our regulatory agency, NREC, they're trying to, they purchased, I think the state of Delaware purchased the property eventually, and now they're doing this remediation, doing a cleanup, but it's a long, slow process.
Yes, it is.
So, but anyway, that's where that comes from.
What about any of the others? None of the inorganic ones?
We detected a little MTBE, which is it's there, but it's not a problem yet at all.
And that's one of the ones California we had major problems with.
Right, and then I think it came from, old gasoline stations leakage, but, again, our regulatory agency now has done quite a bit, with underground storage tanks and the correct remediation for them. So we haven't seen it, at least from my results, and I do check fairly frequently, is that, it looks like, as EPA suggested, it'll gradually get lower and lower. That's what we're seeing, the numbers.
Excellent. All right, so some of the health concerns as these chemical contaminants are concerned would be higher cancer risk. And it seems as if everything is traced back to possible cancer risk through organ damage or circulatory problems, nervous issues, reproductive disorders, as well as the blue baby syndrome. And that is one of the reasons why they've identified these chemicals, because of the possible health concerns, risks involved. And the end result is all public water system must monitor the chemicals listed plus nitrite and nitrate. Your community water system, non-transient, non-community, must also monitor the IOCs, SOCs, and VOCs. There is a standardized monitoring framework. This is the one that I said that we talked about earlier. This is a very quick guidance. If you don't have it, I do suggest, I do have a website that you can go to, but it's a lot of information there condensed that EPA has out there on the web. Sorry, it's not in your book. They do give you a list of contaminants and so forth in your book, but I found this to be an excellent tool here. If you want to, in a nutshell, see all the possible chemicals, when you're supposed to do the monitoring and all of that. So this is great. The SMF reduces the variability within monitoring requirements for chemical and radiological contaminants across your system sizes and your types here. So, regulated contaminants, we're looking at the inorganic, the synthetic organic, as well as the volatile and radionuclides. These are the ones that are regulated. We have 15 of the inorganic contaminants. We have 51 of your synthetic and organic contaminants, as well as volatile, and 4 of the radionuclides that are regulated. There are others that are not regulated, but they're still gathering information on them. Who's covered and who has to apply? All public water systems, and with your public water system, they must at least do the nitrite and nitrate. Remember, public water system, those entities with at least 15 service connections or 25 individuals for the 60 days out of the year, their public water system. Community systems are going to do that. Also, the IOCs, SOCs, and VOCs, as well as the radionuclides. And for your non-transient, non-communities, they have to do the IOCs, SOCs, VOCs, but not the radionuclides. So in a nutshell, based on what your system is classified, you know what you need to be monitored for. All right, so when we get to the actual, this page here, you see the little asterisk here. If there's one asterisk, that means one sample at each entry point to the distribution system is required. If there are 2, we need to do 2 quarterly samples at the entry, and must be taken during 1 calendar year with each 3-year compliance period. There's 4, we're on a quarterly sampling basis. If there's an X, no sample is required unless specified by the promising agents. All right, and I know you can't really see this, but here again, I'll give you the website where you can go and look at it. For the inorganic contaminants there, small systems, where if you have a waiver, then you're looking at the 2nd cycle. You need to pull at least 1 sampling within that 9-year period. Okay, doing the 2nd, and 1 with the 3rd. If you have no waiver, you're permits, ILCs every 3 years with no waiver. How do I go about getting a waiver?
Apply to the state, the regulating agency.
Absolutely. And when you apply to the state, there's some other stipulation. You want to ensure what?
You gotta have 3 rounds of sampling in order to qualify.
Right, and that you're well below their limit, right? You gotta demonstrate that. All right, so that would be for the inorganics. Now, for the synthetic organics, again, with the waiver, look at that. No sampling requirements there. Otherwise, we're doing it, and this is for, again, population greater than the small system size. You're doing them twice. If you're a smaller system here, below the 3,300, which are a small system, again, with the waiver, no sampling. Without the waiver, we're doing it again once every 3 years for the synthetic organic. For the volatile ones, for groundwater system, but you are our surface water system, so we'll look at that one. Surface water system below the trigger level, no sampling is necessary. With no waiver, but there may be some detection, you're looking at an annual basis. So again, a quick reference guide. This reference guide take you all the way to the year 2019, so there's no question, what do I need to monitor? And they do the same for the nitrite, nitrates, radionuclides, again, give you the frequency based on what your system size and whether or not you are considered community or non-transient, non-community. Okay, where can I get this information, this quick reference guide? That's the link there. Excellent resource. So we're looking at www.epa.gov/safe-water/public water PWS/PDFS/ that's a QRG_S monitoring framework. So that should alleviate all doubt, what should I be monitored for? Now again, you'll have to go more in depth of what your history is, to see whether or not it's an increased monitoring that you should have done. And this is pretty much, this one is in your book, just gives you the dates for the second compliance site and the third compliance site, there towards the time of claim. I think that one is on page 5-6. But the other one just gives you so much more information as far as what parameters. All right, so for monitoring waivers for inorganics, volatiles, and synthetic, reduce sampling frequencies to once every 3, 6, 9 years. And again, you have to make sure that you're putting that request in before being granted that waiver. You have to also make sure that you're able to show them that you have no issues in those areas for a specified period of time. So for specified contaminants, it's based on vulnerability assessment to show contaminants has not been used in the area or system is not susceptible to that particular contamination. So they're going to base this information here off of that. Again, analytical results from the previous sample to get on the reduced monitoring. Now, it's been my experience, once you're on a monitoring sequence, you're never fully taken off. Again, the exemption is, okay, you get longer to show, to have to meet that requirements. So maximum contaminant levels are those that are legally enforceable standards. Ultimately, we're protecting the public health by limiting that particular contaminant in the drinking water. Again, you have a list of the contaminants, the MCL, potential health effect, long-term exposure, source of contamination, public health goal, all of that listed in figure 5.1 for the various primary contaminants that we're concerned with. Contaminants of concern, though, because we're not gonna go through all of the IOCs, the synthetic, organics, or volatile, but there are some that, kind of warrant a little more look into because they're more common, widespread. So these are the drinking water, the contaminants of concern that drinking water may be reasonably expected to contain small amounts, but when we start getting up and around that limit, that's set by EPA, they become an issue. Arsenic, fluoride, nitrate, radium, and uranium. Arsenic is something our body needs, naturally occurring. But when you start getting excessive amount, then it starts leading to health issues. Fluoride. Thought that was a good thing.
It is.
It is.
Small amounts.
Help protect this right here from tooth decay. However, he pointed out in small amounts, because when we start getting too much, then it starts doing what?
Messing up your teeth.
Yeah.
You can eventually lead to death if you have way too much.
Okay, and depending on who you believe, and some accent there, but it's gonna start the pitting, the modeling of the teeth, which can be an issue. And ironically enough, this one here is both on the primary list as well as the secondary list. So arsenic is a semi-metal element. It's odorless and tasteless. No telltale sign that it is present. It enters the drinking water supplies from natural deposit in the earth or from agricultural and industrial practices there. It's also used or can be used for preservative in your woods, for all the woods that are pre-treated. And leach out paint, dyes, metals, drugs, soaps, semiconductors. Can be used for agricultural application, mining, and smelting.
The wood preservative part, they're not allowed to use it for that anymore, is it? Or has it been banned, or?
As far as I know, as far as the treated wood, still there.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is one of the issues. Yeah. The wood that's, and I don't know, I see a lot of areas here when I was coming in that you all have a lot of wood places, I noticed. Like lumber yards.
Yeah.
Do you all still use it here?
That I'm not sure of. I mean, I know some of the treated lumber is what, pressure treated salt or
Right.
something like that.
Copper based.
Copper based, that's.
Copper base?
Okay.
Health effect can cause damage to the skin, circulatory, or again, there go that increased cancer risk there. So the goal for arsenic is 0. Now this used to be 0.05. However, a couple of years ago, it changed. That was one of the big revisions. It dropped it to 0.01, 10 parts per billion. Yeah. So again, what did we say earlier, Shane? If that number there is low, what does that mean about that particular contaminant?
Very bad.
Yeah. And that changed from 0.05 to 0.01. How does it get into the drinking water? Again, natural deposit is one of the ways that we'll see a lot of these contaminants because again, water is a universal solvent. Water flows through the ground, through all the rock strata. And if you have any of these contaminants present, easily dissolved into it. And now if it's a groundwater source, it becomes a part of the makeup of the water. Runoff from the organs, runoff from glass and electronics production waste. These ways that can enter into our drinking water. This would be to the surface water there. Under the emergency planning and community right to know, facilities must report annually on the release of these chemicals. And that's something for the MTBE that again, when you have the underground storage tanks and things like that, must be maintained. There's also a clause in there, not only maintained if there's an issue, there's that right to know that you've got to make that public to your consumers also. Another contaminant would be fluoride. Again, it's been widely used for years. Matter of fact, in Texas, we add it to our groundwater because, again, we're naturally low as far as fluoride is concerned, as far as natural. And so a lot of the communities actually add it in to promote good dental health there. But some of the drawbacks when it's in excess is that above that 1.0, 0.7 to 1 is what we try to lean at, or when we start getting above 1, above 2, then you start seeing the pitting of the tooth enamel or the modeling of the teeth, or it can also lead to bone fractures in excessive amounts. So that can be an issue. As far as regulation, the goal and the limit on the primary list is 4 milligrams per liter. But when you start looking at the secondary list of contaminants, that limit drops to 2. What's the difference between the primary drinking water list and the secondary standards?
Primary is enforceable, secondary is only enforceable under certain conditions.
Okay, so primary, there are proven health effects, right? There are. Secondary is more of an aesthetic thing.
Right.
In
Yeah.
other words, I don't want my teeth all round with holes all in them. So it's more of that, not really a health risk attached to it. So why do you think the limit is lower on the secondary? Yeah, try to get you to think with me.
So there, that one is going to start causing aesthetic problems versus actually health problems.
Okay, so we start seeing those
Yeah,
initially.
first.
But Delaware actually puts ours at 2. Our MTL is 2.
Really too?
Yeah, we
Okay.
voted ours to 2. We want that. A few states that were more strict.
Right, and that's always one of the things that, again, we all fall up under EPA, but each individual state has the right to be more strict. They gotta meet the limit,
Yeah.
but you know, they can be more strict if they deem necessary, based on the characteristics of the water. Excellent. All right, how does it get into the drinking water? Again, it's easily dissolved into groundwater as it moves through those gaps and spaces between the rocks and things like that. It can be a good start from fertilizer or aluminum factories. And again, in a lot of cases, it may be added to promote the health of the teeth. Another contaminant, nitrate. We talked about this earlier, associated with the blue baby syndrome. Uses, fertilizer. We want those big crops. We want large production. And so we do a lot of fertilizing there. Health effect, that's most notable that it's known for is the blue baby syndrome. Okay, and high amounts in the water, and if it's come in contact with this, again, their bodies are going to prefer that over the oxygen. If you have a developed immune system and so forth, you're not going to see the same effects of the large amount of nitrates. Regulation as far as the goal and the limit, we're looking at 10 milligrams per liter. It's going to get into our water source from runoff from fertilizer use or leakage from your septic tanks. Do you all regulate? Do you all have septic tanks still?
Yes.
Okay. And do you regulate them?
Standard code, the Department of Resource regulates all that.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Because a lot of times what we see on the private side, not as much regulation as if it was a public entity. Sewage or from erosion of the natural deposit. Again, it falls under that same emergency planning and community right to know as far as reporting of releases there. Another chemical of concern could be radionuclides. Radionuclides are atoms with unstable nucleus, which they try to become more stable, and in that attempt to become more stable, they're going to emit forms of rays or high-speed particles that disrupt DNA functions. There are 3 types of ionizing radiation: alpha, beta, and gamma. And that's one of the big things now that I'm getting used to, all this zapping when I fly every time. Yeah, full body x-rays there. So it is a major concern, and if it's in our drinking water, what is it doing at the time? Oh, question, before I go to that slide. What do you think much of the contamination from radioactive material will come from? Is it from man-made or those natural sources, or do we have any natural sources of radioactive materials? We do?
I think it's natural.
Natural?
80% of it is natural.
Wow.
Excellent. Yes. 80% is of exposures from your natural source. And we don't think about that in that way. A lot of times we think, okay, it was that old chemical war plant that buried that stuff, and now we went back and put a playground there, or build apartments there, and it's leached out into the groundwater source. But 80% from rocks and soils, or cosmic radiation from space, or the radon gas. That was interesting there. Only 20% from man-made sources. Now, EPA regulates the gross alpha emitters, the beta particle, photons, radium 226 and 228. Actually, these are combined, and uranium. Those are the four that are regulated under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Usage, nuclear medicine for diagnosis, treatment, or research. Radiation is also used as a treatment for cancer, okay? For imaging, produce steam, which turns your turbines to generate electric power. You're using smoke, radium is used in smoke detectors, and also to kill pathogens and insects in food. So it has some good usage there, but again, at a minimum level. Health effects, again, we have too much, there's that increased cancer risk, kidney problems. So the maximum contaminant level goal is 0. However, the limits for your growth apples, 15 picocuries. Beta particles, you're looking at 4 milligrams, or radium 226 and 228, 5, uranium 30 micrograms per liter. Okay. But the goal, 9. Now these were revisited and revised in 2000 to include uranium. And again, most of it gets into our drinking water naturally. There's amounts of mildly radioactive elements out there. And in your book, they talk about the parent and the daughter syndrome as far as this radioactivity here. So we have all these elements, contaminants that we're concerned with. If they're present in our water, what do we do? Especially when they start to exceed the maximum contaminant level. Number one, we have to notify the public whenever there's an issue. How many of you all do annual CCRs? Yeah, that public notification that goes out. But how do we mitigate, or how do we treat for it? With our organic material, it's very simple. What everybody does is usually what?
Ion exchange.
Huh?
Ion exchange.
Well, y'all got money up in this part of town. Yeah. Or some form of disinfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is what we typically do on the organic to take care of those contaminants. But inorganic, if I'm adding chlorine, am I really getting rid of the inorganic chemicals or contaminants that are there? Not doing anything. So with organic chemicals, they must physically be removed. In a lot of cases, again, ion exchanges can be an excellent way of removing the chemical contaminant of concern. So we have a lot of different treatment options. Activated alumina is one, anion exchange. There's another one, iron-based absorptive media, mixed bed ion exchange. All of these are different, various types of filtration, different ways that we can remove the inorganic material. The key is inorganic material must be physically removed. All right, and we'll just go in a nutshell what each of the different treatment options entail. With your activated aluminum beds, porous aluminum-based material and they're good for arsenic removal, fluoride, uranium, as well as selenium. But the operational issues involved with activated alumina is that it's pH dependent. You have to maintain the pH in a certain range for optimum removal. Clogging may also be an issue, and so you gotta periodically backwash it in order to remove those clogs. Your media must be regenerated. Again, one of the advantage, low cost, minimum operation, or operator attention necessary here. Some of the concerns, though, with this treatment option is that your backwash water, the brine, the rinse water, acid neutralization, what are you going to do with that waste? Can I just dump it into the nearest water course?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Somebody else's.
Absolutely not. Not.
Put it in the sanitary sewer if you get permission. Probably.
Okay, you gotta have the right permits in place in order to get rid of it. Sanitary sewer may be a possibility. Now, he said one thing that was very, very good. He said, if you have permission, and make sure that, again, it may have to be pre-treated before I can just, because what am I gonna do to the little wastewater treatment organisms by dumping stuff that has a huge amount of concentrated amount of arsenic in it? So what's he gonna do to the little microorganisms? Yeah, not a good thing. Then they're gonna be knocking at your door. So you may, with pre-treatment, possibility, absolutely, yeah. So you have to make sure you have a game plan for handling the waste from this treatment process, okay? Because you may have concentrated level of arsenic or the radionuclides there, so just keep that in mind. You're always going to look at all your available options, what your process involved, what your wastes are, and the amount before you just go leaping into which one works best for you. Anion exchange is a physical chemical process in which ions are swapped between a solution phase and a solid resin phase. Chloride is released into the water with this option here. It is a best treatment technology for arsenic, nitrate, uranium, as well as fluoride. Again, we see the pH being an issue. And to be honest, with most of these, most of them will be optimized within a certain pH range. And so pH, you'll never get away from that, it seems. Another problem, it's difficult to regenerate the resins with the uranium exchange. If you have total dissolved solids greater than 500, it adversely affects the treatment performance. And pre-treatment is recommended if source water acidity is greater than the 0.3 NTUs. So you're going to have to look at your source water. Do I have an issue with turbidity? Then this may not be the option for me. And the operator may need a little more skills required for this process than with the aluminum exchange here. Here again, what are we going to do with the backwash water? Rinse water, spent media, the regenerate brine, all of that, you're going to have to make sure that you have something in place to deal with that. And pre-treatment may be necessary before just disposal to a sanitary sewer. We have the iron-based absorptive media. It is not considered one of the technology that should be used, however it can, not as a best practice one, but it can be effective for arsenic, radium, uranium, and antimony there. Again, we see the same type of operational issues with the pH. It's pH dependent. Bacteria can accumulate in the media during low flow and hot weather. And also you can get some breakthrough, which now you got the same issue you started with, especially when you're trying to remove easily be recycled through the treatment plant or discharged to the sewage septic system or surface water. If you're doing the surface water deal, you better have a permit in place to discharge to the surface waters. Testing may be necessary to ensure that the spent media is non-hazardous or radioactive. Mixed bed ion exchange is another treatment option that may be available. Again, we're using anion and cation exchange combined in a single unit there. Can be used for arsenic, radium, uranium, sulfate, magnesium, as well as calcium removal there. Optimum pH is the high range for proper removal. Sulfate and uranium can displace arsenic, causing a spike of arsenic in the treated water, which may be of some concern. And again, we see the breakthrough possibility of your contaminants there. You may need to increase alkalinity after ion exchange to reduce corrosion in the distribution system. Again, we need a little operator experience to operate mixed bed ion exchange. We need to look at and understand and where and what we're going to do as far as waste disposal, because you may have elevated concentration of radium, arsenic in your spent regenerant, as well as your media there. And so pre-treatment may be necessary if one of your options is to the sanitary sewer. You may have to pre-treat it to remove those things. Green sand filtration is another option that's available. Here we're utilizing manganese-coated filter media to oxidize and absorb the contaminants. Again, it's good for arsenic, radium, iron, as well as manganese up to 10 parts per million. And again, they have some operational issues. pH again would be one of the dependent factors there. It can be cost effective for radium removal for your small systems there. Another option, it would be oxidation coagulation filtration, which probably the majority of our surface facility utilize this option here. Absorption of contaminants, aluminum or ferric hydroxide precipitate being removed by filtration, and it can remove all of these, including microbes. And again, talked about the biological aspects of this type of filtration. So here we're looking at microbes such as Cryptosporidium, Giardia, can handle roles here. Okay, for operational issues, 20 to 1 iron to arsenic ratio improves iron removal. It's pH dependent, and we've seen that with most of them. Anything that you're adding chemicals or dealing with chemicals would be probably pH dependent. Advanced operator skills may be necessary. Waste disposal concern, iron, aluminum sludges, supernatant, filter backwash, and spent media. You need to know what you're going to do with that. If you're going to discharge it to a sewage or septic system, you have to make sure you're doing the testing to make sure that you're not putting an adverse tax on that treatment facility wastewater. Elevated uranium may dictate disposal options that may be different from that. So you have to do the analysis, the testing to see what's in that spent water backwash before you just haphazardly dispose it. Another option would be lime softening. And again, can be used for arsenic, radium, uranium, as well as hardness. Removes hardness by precipitating out calcium and magnesium. And remember, those are the two elements that causes the hardness in water. Okay, this is a higher treatment cost, so it may not be cost effective for your small systems, and you may need to increase alkalinity for corrosion control if this is one of the plausible options to go with. Again, concerned with disposal because we got high volume of lime sludge. You could have precipitates of radium or uranium, supernatant from the sludge or filter backwash. You got to make sure you know what will happen, what you're going to do with all of that. Again, you want to make sure you're testing, to see what's in all of the waste. And the one that I think Shane pointed out probably was a cure-all for everything, reverse osmosis, because it will almost produce a very, very high quality purified water. So if it's so excellent, what's some of the disadvantages of RO?
Very
What is,
expensive.
can be expensive, what is RO, reverse osmosis?
Just drip it through a real fine
membrane filter.
filter, yeah,
Yeah, under pressure,
high pressure.
yeah,
So,
very, very
yeah.
good.
So high energy, low yield.
Huh?
High energy, low yield.
Absolutely, but we've gotten a lot better, because it used to be, you probably was getting rid of about 50%. Now you're only losing 20 to 40% of your product there. So as the technology increase, gets better, you know, less and less, you're able to use more of your product water. So it's good for a whole lot of things. That list just tripled in size there, as far as some of the things that it can rid of. And I noticed that it's good for your microbial contaminants also, not just the inorganic ones. Some of the issues can get easily filed. Membranes, some of the membranes, the cellulose acetates are susceptible to biological fouling. And they have the chlorine can be utilized for that. But when you start adding chlorines and you have naturally organic materials at present, because we said they can handle the microbials that may be there, then you start having the productions of your disinfectant byproducts, which are now another concern here. Your polyamide membranes can also be damaged by the chlorine that we just told you that you can utilize at that point. 20 to 40% of your raw water is lost in the reject stream, and again, that's pretty good compared to years ago, where it was much higher than that. And then you got a higher treatment cost there. So those are some of the options that are out there to take into consideration for removal of those chemical contaminants that may be present. Some tips: frequent monitoring of what's in your system there. You want to make adjustments to maximize your treatment option. Consider again the ease of operations and operator's qualification. Some of those techniques, you need someone that's pretty skilled in order to effectively run them. Others not so much, so take that into consideration. Pre-oxidation may be necessary for maximum removal of certain contaminants. And if you have series or parallel configuration, look at and do studies to see which one will work best in order to reduce the number of breakthrough contaminants that may be happening. If I set it up in series versus a parallel configuration there. And above all, whichever method that you're going to use to treat, you want to make sure that you're testing. Not just the regulatory testing required by the state and EPA, but process control testing. All right, drinking water regulation, subpart G gives you identification of BEC technology, and those are in the book that you can read at your leisure. Subpart K gives you variances for small systems. And with these variances, they're issued only by state exercising primacy. I think that's all except two that do not have the primacy. Yeah. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or issues on chemical contaminants? If you think of any questions, concerns, or issues after the fact, of course, you can always contact us at any of those locations for your question, and we will respond.